Tonight, on Remote Cabin Radio, we journey into the shadowy depths of two of America's most inexplicable wildernesses, where legends aren't just whispered, but roared into existence by the unseen, the unexplained, and the utterly terrifying. First, we take you to the haunted pines of Arkansas, where a colossal figure known only as the Wild Man once stalked the frontier, leaving terror and unanswered questions in his wake. Then we plunge into the murky, trembling earth of the Okefenokee Swamp, where a monstrous beast of unimaginable size unleashed horror upon a group of hunters, leaving behind a chilling legacy that still lingers in the fog today. These are not just stories, they are encounters with the unknown. So, lock your doors, dim the lights, and prepare yourself for a journey into the dark heart of American folklore. Because sometimes the past doesn't just haunt us, it hunts us. Tonight's first story, The Arkansas Wild Man, A Shadow in the Pines. The deep woods of Arkansas, where towering pines whisper secrets to those who dare to venture, were once home to more than just the wildlife that roamed its shadowed paths. In the early 19th century, amidst the encroaching frontier settlements, whispers of a strange and terrifying presence began to circulate, a creature known only as the Wild Man. In February of 1846, the tranquility of the Crowley's Ridge area in eastern Arkansas was shattered by the first recorded sightings of this enigmatic being. The newspapers of the day, including the Baltimore Sun, reported these encounters with an air of incredulity. Descriptions of the Wild Man varied, but one thing was certain: this was no ordinary creature. His footprints were said to measure a staggering 22 inches, with toes as long as a man's fingers, and his height and build were described as being double that of a normal human. The sheer size and the bizarre characteristics of this being left the settlers in a state of awe and dread. As the stories spread, so did the sightings. By 1851, the New Hampshire Patriot and State Gazette reported that an expedition was being organized in Memphis to hunt down the Wild Man. The monster, described as being of gigantic size and covered with hair, had been spotted chasing a herd of cattle, further fueling the fear and fascination surrounding this elusive being. According to these reports, the Wild Man was not confined to a single region. His terrifying form was said to have been seen in Greene, Poinsett, and St. Francis counties for over 17 years, suggesting that he had roamed these lands as far back as 1834. Yet despite the organized efforts to capture this creature, the Wild Man of Arkansas remained a mystery. No expedition, no matter how determined, could uncover the truth behind the sightings. The newspapers of the day continued to report on the creature, with accounts as late as 1856 describing a wild man roaming through the Mississippi bottom, a shadow that evaded every attempt to bring it into the light. One of the most chilling encounters took place in the wilderness along the upper Red River. The Wild Man was reportedly seen breaking the ice of a frozen lake. This time, the creature was described as covered with hair of a brownish cast and as being well-muscled. A party of men from Louisiana, perhaps emboldened by their numbers, decided to capture the beast. But what followed was a scene of pure horror. When one of the hunters, riding ahead of his comrades, attempted to take the monster on his own, the Wild Man reacted with a ferocity that defied belief. He attacked the hunter with savage strength, gouging out one of his eyes and leaving the other so damaged that it was feared he would never see again. As if this was not enough, The creature then tore large pieces from the man's shoulder and various other parts of his body before making off with the hunter's horse. The pursuit that followed was as harrowing as the attack itself. The hunter's companions, joined by a group of Choctaw Indians, chased the wild man into the snow-covered Ouachita Mountains. But despite their best efforts, the creature remained beyond their grasp, disappearing into the frozen wilderness as if swallowed by the very earth. Today, the tale of the Arkansas wild man remains a haunting reminder of the mysteries that once lurked in the untamed corners of the American frontier. Was it a hoax, a product of overactive imaginations in a time when the wilds were still largely unexplored? Or was there something real, something terrifying, that once stalked the woods of Arkansas? The truth, as historian Dale Cox has noted, may never be known. But the stories persist, passed down through generations, a dark echo of a time when the wilderness held secrets too frightening to comprehend. As the wild man of Arkansas fades back into the shadows of Crowley's Ridge, his massive footprints and violent encounters a chilling reminder of the unknown, we shift our gaze to another dark corner of the American wilderness, the Okefenokee Swamp, where the land itself seems to tremble underfoot. Another monstrous figure once emerged from the mists, leaving behind a trail of terror that has yet to be forgotten. Our second story. The Beast of the Okefenokee, a hunter's nightmare. In the heart of the Okefenokee Swamp, where the land itself seems to tremble underfoot, a legend was born that has haunted the imaginations of those who dare to explore its depths. Known to the Muskogee Creek Indians as Okefenokee, or Trembling Earth, the swamp was a place of both reverence and fear, a vast, mysterious expanse that defied understanding. And in the winter of 1828, it became the setting for one of the most terrifying encounters ever recorded. The Okefenokee Swamp, a sprawling wetland covering more than 680,000 acres across Georgia and Florida, has long been the subject of stories about giants and other strange creatures. But the tale that emerged was different. It was a story of a real flesh and blood monster, one that would come to be known as the Beast of the Okefenokee. Two men, driven by curiosity and the extraordinary drought that had gripped the region, ventured deep into the swamp, their flintlock rifles at the ready. For 2 weeks, they explored the murky waters and dense vegetation, pushing further into the heart of the swamp than anyone had before. It was there, near the center of this desolate wilderness, that they stumbled upon something that would make their blood run cold. Gigantic footprints, each measuring 18 inches in length and 9 inches in width. The tracks suggested that the creature responsible was not only enormous, but also moved with a strange, almost hesitant gait, its stride covering a distance of over 6 feet from heel to toe. The men, recognizing the danger they were in, decided that it was time to leave the swamp. But their discovery had ignited something in them, and they shared their story with friends and neighbors upon their return. A larger group of hunters, hearing of the men's encounter, decided to launch an expedition of their own. Guided by one of the original explorers, they set off into the swamp, determined to find the creature that had left such fearsome tracks. For days, they followed the trail, moving deeper into the Okefenokee until they reached a small rise where they decided to make camp. As the men prepared for the night, reloading their rifles after firing off the damp powder, an eerie silence settled over the swamp. Then, without warning, a massive creature burst from the shadows, charging their camp with terrifying speed. The hunters barely had time to gather their wits before the beast was upon them, its massive form looming over the campfire's glow. The creature was unlike anything they had ever seen, a towering figure, 13 feet tall, with a body covered in thick, dark hair. Its eyes burned with a primal fury as it advanced on the men, who instinctively fired their rifles in a desperate attempt to stop the beast. 7 shots rang out, each one finding its mark, but the creature did not fall. Instead, it unleashed a ferocious attack, killing 5 of the hunters with horrifying ease, tearing their heads from their bodies with a strength that defied comprehension. The remaining men, now reduced to 4, fought on, their terror only growing as they realized the monster was far from defeated. But finally, after what felt like an eternity, the beast collapsed, writhing and exhausted from its wounds. The survivors, too frightened to stay any longer, fled the swamp, leaving their fallen comrades behind. They would later tell their story, a tale of unimaginable horror that was reported in newspapers like the Milledgeville Statesman and Connecticut Sentinel. The creature, they said, was dead, but the fear it instilled in them would never leave. And though they never returned to the Okefenokee to retrieve the bodies of their friends, the memory of that night lived on in the stories they told, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the unexplored corners of the world. Even today, the Okefenokee Swamp remains a place of mystery and unease. Reports of giant footprints continue to surface, and some even claim to have seen a massive, hair-covered creature prowling the wetlands. Whether it is the same beast that attacked those hunters in 1829 or another of its kind, no one can say for sure. But one thing is certain: the swamp holds secrets that are best left undisturbed. As the last echoes of these chilling tales fade, we're left with lingering questions. These stories, though relegated to old newspaper and whispered folklore, conceal a truth that resists complete understanding. Were the wild man and swamp creature mere figments of frontier imagination, or did they represent something beyond our grasp? Maybe these beings have retreated further into the wilderness, hidden from a world that has moved on. Or perhaps they continue to linger, elusive and barely seen, as reminders of where human control falters. As we close this chapter of haunting tales, consider the mysteries that elude our grasp. This is Remote Cabin Radio, where the truth is often stranger and far more terrifying than fiction.